if you read the book by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, no, let me read that book. I'm coming back to this book. Just want to read something, and I'm reading that book for one reason and one reason only. It's a book that people from the East used to taunt people and say, have you read IBB's book? That's the reason I'm reading this book. Just saying. In response to the Aburi Accord, the federal government promulgated Decree 8. I'm going back to that book by Ojukwu, but this is now, I'm reading A Journey in Service by IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. It says, in response to the Aburi Accord, the federal government promulgated Decree 8, which was meant to embody the accord as understood by the federal government. At a meeting of the Supreme Council in Benin on March 10, 1967, where Decree 8 was to be ratified by the military governors, Ojukwu boycotted the talks, claiming that the decree violated the spirit and meaning of the Aburi Accord. My question is, was Ojukwu right? Now let's go back to the book by Akpan. This is Ojukwu, by the way. The book is called The Struggle for Secession. It says here, the outcome of that meeting, by the way, it was a meeting for the secretaries that was held in February of 1967. The outcome of that meeting was Decree number 8, which in my view faithfully, please listen. So now Ojukwu, who was Ojukwu again? The secretary of the Eastern region, working directly with the military governor, Ojukwu. The outcome of that meeting was Decree number 8. What meeting? On February 17th to 18th, secretaries to the military government, accompanied by legal and financial advisors, met in Benin to advise on how the Aburi decisions should be implemented. That's the meeting is referring to. Aburi Accord was January 4th to 5th. This meeting was from February 17th to 18th. And then the secretary says the outcome of that meeting was Decree number 8, which in my view faithfully implemented the Aburi decisions. As was the practice, the draft was sent to all the military governors of the country. A meeting of the Supreme Military Council was fixed for Benin on March 10th. Benin had been chosen to enable the military governor of the East to attend, since he would not go to Lagos because of the presence of northern troops in the West. The East military governor had no intention of attending. The East military governor had no intention of attending because he had been advised by his constitutional experts not to accept the decree because, quote, it had not fully implemented the Aburi decisions. What was more, the military governor had received reliable information that he would be kidnapped or arrested once he reached Benin. The federal government had in fact done, by the way, this person is on the eastern side though. The federal government had in fact done everything to ensure the security of all attending. The world press was present. How could one believe, I asked, that with all the glare and attention and interest of the whole world focused on what was going on, the federal government would be so reckless and mean as to arrange the kidnapping of the East military governor whilst attending a legitimate meeting arranged by the federal government to resolve Nigerian crisis? I incurred much displeasure with such an impertinent question and also earned further suspicion and distrust. If you speak against whatever they were doing, then you will be called a sabo, which is what they still call people today. You are sabo. Your friends are sabo. Your enemies are heroes. Congratulations. Now, this man, I'm not going to read everything we read last week. This man went through the draft decree and the legal experts. So the legal expert, let me just read the introduction. The draft decree had gone to the governor first and he had handed it to the legal experts to examine. I keep wondering why he puts inverted commas on these legal experts. Maybe they're not so legal after all. I saw a copy later, but in time for me to study and make counter comments. So essentially, when he took the legal expert's comment of the draft decree, he then wrote his own comments, which he published in this book. It's long. We read part of it last week. I'm not going to read everything. I just want to mention one part of it, and then I'll go to Ojukwu's book. He says here, I have this morning received a copy of the comments by the lawyers. In considering the comments of the lawyers, I submit that Your Excellency be guided by the following considerations. A, the fact that this draft decree or decree number 8, why is it important? It's the implementation of the Aburi Accord. So he says the fact that I submit that Your Excellency be guided by the following considerations. A, the fact that this draft decree presents a major victory for Your Excellency's stand and principles. I assess the success to be at least 95%. In other words, decree number 8 would give Ojukwu 95% of what he asked for in Aburi. What does that mean? Let me read just a bit of it so we understand. Number 1, they were restoring the powers of the regional governments which had been suppressed by decree number 1 following the army takeover in 1966. Like we always say, Ironsi abolished the regions. You will find it also in our 1968 speech. You will find it in this book by Ojukwu. You will find it in Gowon's book. You find it everywhere but the mouths of certain revisionists from the southeast. It was not Gowon that abolished the regional system. It was Ironsi. But what they are saying here is this: with this decree number 8, we are reversing everything Ironsi did. We are going back to the way we were before. And by the way, it was even better than how we were before Ironsi. But let me just read a few of those things. It said, number 1, the restoration of the powers of the regional governments which had been suppressed or depressed by decree number 1 following the army takeover in 1966. Number 2, the vesting in the Supreme Military Council all the powers which used to belong to the federal government prior to January 16th, with the proviso that any decision of the Supreme Military Council which affected the whole country must receive the concurrence of the military governors. In other words, insofar as those matters were concerned, the military governors had powers of veto. What does that mean? All that in English, what does it mean? Let me explain. It means that the executive powers will be in the Supreme Military Council. Also, the legislative power will be in the Supreme Military Council. The Oga, the head of state, could not just wake up and say, decree this, decree that. He had to work with the SMC. And on certain matters, they will also have veto. It wasn't just this. And that's why I said that there's no way you're going to be a military dictator and you would agree to decree and you agree to Aburi Accord. It doesn't make sense. And that's why I say everybody who insults Gowon, or who looks down on Gowon, or who just says all this nonsense, it's either you don't know what you're talking about or you're daft. And I mean it. No apologies. If you don't know it, that's fine. All of us we've all been ignorant of anything. You can always learn. But if you choose, you know it too, but you still call him bad names, you are daft. Because the concessions that he made, no military ruler will allow that kind of thing. What you are saying that I am the military head of state of this nation, but guess what? If I want to make decision, the governors will have to tell me and agree to it or not. And if they say no, then we're not going to do it. What then makes you the military administrator or the military? What makes you the dictator? Literally, you're not dictating anything. You are having to wait for your governors to veto whatever. So that's what he chose to do. He's saying here that when I looked at all these things that's in decree number 8, I'm telling you that Gowon has given you 95% of what you asked for. So what did Ojukwu do with 95%? Let me first read something to you from Hilary Njoku. Who is Hilary Njoku and why should we take him seriously? He's not just a human being. He was a human being, but was also the head of Biafra military. So we should take him seriously. The book is called A Tragedy Without Heroes. So remember what Ojukwu said. Ojukwu said Ojukwu got 95% of what he asked for at Aburi in decree number 8 of March 1967. And please, I know General Gowon is still alive. Somebody said something, I think it was on Twitter, I was there last week, and someone said General Gowon needs to speak up about stuff, and I said he spoke already. He's inside his book. This is his biography. He was interviewed. He said a lot of things in this book. He spoke. The question is, do you want to listen? So Ojukwu, the secretary to the government, said 95% was what the decree number 8 gave Ojukwu 95% of what he wanted. Let's read another person and what they thought about that. So we're reading this book called A Tragedy Without Heroes by Hilary Njoku. And here's what he says. This is page 118, by the way. One morning, about 10th March 1967, I got to the governor's office at the State House. There were smiles on every face. Mr. N.U. Akpan, the secretary to the military government, was the first person of note I met. He greeted me with the expression, quote, "Shake my hand, we have made it, end quote. I asked what? Gowon has issued the right decree on Aburi, he replied. I later walked across to the office of the governor's private secretary, Mr. Don Egbe. He confirmed the news. He added that as a legal man, he observed that the new decree number 8, contained 98% of the Aburi decisions, and that the remaining 2% was military jargon that could not fit into legal terms. We congratulated each other. As soon as the military governor entered his office, I followed him in a much more relaxed mood. Congratulations, Your Excellency. I understand that a new decree on Aburi is out and embodies all you have been asking for. Who told you? No, I won't accept it. It is too late. My face dropped and I was short of words. Indeed, Gowon had delayed. What is this delay, Seth? What's the delay? Aburi was 4th to 5th of January. The secretaries met in February. The decree was promulgated in March. And he says late. For make next year, because I don't even understand, but more continue. Says my face dropped and I was short of words. Indeed, Gowon had delayed in issuing the correct decree on the decisions of Aburi. It is also a fact that the advice of the Committee of the Federal Permanent Secretaries and Executive Council might have played a part both in the delay and the shortcomings of the decree. Aburi decisions reduced Nigeria to a confederation. And what is worse, it created regional armies in the name of area commands. But guess what? This man still gave them. Let's continue. It would have been unbecoming of an officer and gentleman if Gowon had rejected the Aburi Accord completely. For Ojukwu, history will fault him for this strategic mistake. That is, rejecting the decree on Aburi, no matter how late and relatively incomplete. Perhaps he had bargained for more. So here's the question. How do you get 98% of what you demanded and you still walk away from the table? It was after this man said no. Ojukwu Gowon just said, you know what, we won't even continue with this status quo. We're going to create states and continue with the status quo of power, like domiciled at the center, so to speak. So just to be clear, when people say things about Aburi Accord, remind them that there's something called decree number 8 that Ojukwu rejected. And that decree number 8 actually gave Ojukwu every single thing he wanted except one thing. And that only thing that it didn't give him was secession. How do I know? Let me read something to you from the speech by Anthony Nauro. Was given 1968, August 12 at Addis Ababa. It says, every conceivable concession was made to Ojukwu, who was then the military governor of the East. The concessions included the following. Number 1, the sum of £500,000 was paid as first installment to help Ojukwu's government in the rehabilitation of his don't believe this book, read The Struggle for Secession. N.U. Akpan mentioned similar things. In fact, there are two books you should read. If you don't believe this one, you should believe this one, by the way. It's from Anthony Nauro. But just in case you hate the idea that is the one talking, read this one. This book is called Gowon, The Biography of a Soldier Statesman by J. Sarelaiko. Read this one. Struggle for Secession by N.U. Akpan. Is there. Ojukwu had hardly left the conference hall before he began to twist the Aburi agreements. The agreements reached at Aburi were subsequently embodied, this is where I'm going, in Decree number 8 of 17th March 1967. I'm going to read that line very slowly. Hopefully people can hear it well. The agreements reached at Aburi were subsequently embodied in Decree number 8, promulgated on 17th March 1967. The decree conferred greater powers on the various regional governments in a deliberate effort to restore confidence among the then component units of the Federation. It says the new decree exceeded in decentralization anything ever before attempted in Nigeria. It was introduced to placate Ojukwu, yet Ojukwu completely rejected the decree and instead demanded the right of separate sovereign existence for the former Eastern region, cooperating only in a few common services with the other regions as sovereign states. That's the only thing Nigeria did not give Ojukwu. In other words, by the way, it gets crazier. I will try and read as much as possible today from this document. It gets crazier. Ojukwu was saying, no, what I want is not to be in Nigeria. I want to be able to have my own country, but I'll still be able to work with you Nigerians as Nigerians. In other words, we're going to be dual citizens. If you think I'm lying, please just hold on. I'll read it in this document. I don't want to jump right now. The only thing Gowon did not give Ojukwu was breaking Nigeria. There's no military leader in the history of this world, to the best of my knowledge, that would agree to this kind of thing. Gowon was from heaven. Well, his parents were evangelists and missionaries, so that church thing, you go they show, even if you're a soldier, you go they show small. No matter what you do, the way you are raised will show. Nobody will concede this kind of thing to anybody. What Gowon did was to help Nigeria. Ojukwu said, no,